AITA for refusing to attend my sister's second wedding because she's marrying my ex-husband? So, this is a long and honestly unbelievable mess that I wish was a bad soap opera plot. But unfortunately, it's my real life. I, 35F, was married to my ex-husband, Mark, 36M, for almost 7 years. We met in college, dated for a few years, got married, and had what I thought was a stable, if not exciting marriage. We didn't have kids, but we had a house, 2 dogs, shared finances, the whole settled adult thing. Things started going downhill during the pandemic. We both worked from home, and the stress, isolation, and just monotony started to eat at us. He became distant, I became frustrated, and we started arguing more. Eventually, we agreed to separate for a while. That while turned permanent when I found out he had started seeing someone else. I was crushed, but I figured it was some random rebound. The part that shattered me was when I found out who it was. It wasn't a stranger. It was my younger sister, Lila, 28F. Lila and I were close growing up. She was the fun one, the spontaneous one, the one who'd always been a little reckless, but lovable. I was the responsible older sister who helped her with homework, covered for her when she stayed out late, and bailed her out of a few bad situations. We were different, but we were family. I trusted her completely. When I confronted her, she didn't even deny it. She said, "We didn't mean for it to happen, but we fell in love." She said it like it was something out of a romance movie, like it was noble and tragic, not utterly disgusting and cruel. Mark didn't even have the decency to tell me himself. He just quietly moved his stuff out of our house and into hers. I cut them both off completely after that. I went through the divorce mostly on my own. My parents were sympathetic, but kept saying things like, "Love is complicated," and "we can't choose who we love," which honestly made me feel like they were trying to normalize betrayal. I told them I didn't want to hear about Lila or Mark ever again. Fast forward almost 2 years. I've moved, gotten therapy, started a new job, and built a good life for myself. I don't think about them much anymore. Until last month, when my mom called and told me that Lila and Mark are getting married, and that they want me to come. I literally laughed when she said it. Like, what kind of person thinks their ex-wife is going to show up to their wedding to her own sister? My mom said Lila really wants to make things right, and that this is her way of bringing the family back together. Apparently, she even said I could bring a +1 if that would make me more comfortable. I told my mom that it was the most delusional thing I'd ever heard, and that there was absolutely no chance I'd be attending. Cue the family drama. My parents are now furious with me for holding a grudge. My dad said he understands I'm hurt, but that it's been years and it's time to move on. My mom keeps sending me emotional texts about how family is forever and how my absence would ruin Lila's big day. She even said, "You don't have to sit in the front. Just show up and be civil." Apparently, Lila has been telling everyone she hopes I'll forgive her and that my presence would mean the world to her. Some extended relatives even called me to say I should be the bigger person and let go of the past. It's honestly surreal. When I said no again, my mom lost it. She accused me of being vindictive and said my refusal shows I haven't grown as a person. My dad, who's usually the calm one, told me that if I don't come, maybe I should stop expecting to be included in family gatherings. That one stung because I'm close with my cousins and nieces and I don't want to be cut out, but I also refuse to play along with this circus. The part that really broke me was when Lila sent me a letter. Yes, an actual handwritten letter that said she knows she hurt me deeply, but that true love is rare and that she hopes one day I'll understand. She wrote that the heart wants what it wants and that maybe the universe meant for things to happen this way. She ended it with, "I'll always love you, sis." I didn't even respond. I couldn't. The entitlement, the lack of accountability. It's like she's living in a completely different reality. But now my parents have doubled down. They've told me that if I don't come, I shouldn't bother showing up for Christmas because it's unfair to make everyone choose sides. I told them they already chose sides when they decided to attend the wedding of the man who cheated on me with my sister. My mom started crying and said I'm tearing the family apart. So now I'm stuck wondering if I'm somehow the unreasonable one here. I don't want to be the villain or the bitter ex-wife. I've moved on, but I can't bring myself to smile and clap for the two people who blew up my life. It's not even about anger anymore. It's about self-respect. Still, my therapist says closure sometimes comes from releasing resentment, and a small part of me wonders if showing up, strong, calm, untouchable, might actually be the ultimate power move. Like, showing them they didn't break me. But another part of me thinks that would just validate their fantasy that what they did was somehow forgivable. So, AITA for refusing to go to my sister's wedding to my ex-husband, even if it means losing my relationship with the rest of my family. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's child-free wedding because she made an exception for my ex-husband's new wife's kids, but not mine. So, I, 37F, am in a pretty messy family situation that has now blown up into a full-on family feud, and apparently, I'm ruining my sister's wedding. But for where I'm standing, she's the one being hypocritical. My sister, Emma, 32F, is getting married next month. She's been planning this wedding for over a year, and she's been very vocal about wanting it to be child-free. Fine, I respect that. She doesn't have kids, and she wanted a sophisticated event. I have 2 kids, 10 and 8, and while it's disappointing they can't come, I wasn't going to argue with her choice. The issue is my ex-husband, Daniel, 38M. We were married for 11 years before we divorced 4 years ago. We share custody of our 2 kids. Daniel remarried last year to a woman named Lacey, 29F. I'll admit, Lacey and I don't exactly get along. She was the reason our marriage ended. She and Daniel started seeing each other while we were still married, though they both deny it. Either way, it was obvious. It hurt like hell, but I've moved on and tried to be civil for the sake of the kids. Anyway, Daniel and I both got invites to Emma's wedding. That was a little awkward, but understandable. He's still technically family to some degree since we share kids, and Emma and he were close during our marriage. I didn't mind. But a few weeks ago, my kids were talking about Aunt Emma's wedding and how Lacey's kids get to go. I froze and asked what they meant. Turns out, Lacey has 2 children from a previous relationship, ages 6 and 9, and they were specifically invited to the wedding. I thought my kids must have misunderstood, so I called Emma to clarify. She confirmed it. Yes, Lacey's kids are invited. No, mine are not. I asked her why, and her explanation floored me. She said the wedding was mostly child-free, but that Lacey's kids were in the wedding party. Apparently, the 9-year-old girl is a junior bridesmaid, and the 6-year-old boy is the ring bearer. When I asked why my daughter, 10, couldn't be included, Emma said she wanted a consistent aesthetic and that she already had enough kids involved. I told her that's ridiculous. My daughter has known Emma her entire life. She calls her Aunt Em, and my son adores her. She just shrugged and said she didn't want to overcomplicate things with too many children in the mix. I reminded her that my kids are actually family, not just the children of my cheating ex's new wife. Her response? Well, they're Daniel's kids too, and I want him to feel included since he was such a big part of our family for so long. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told her it was deeply hurtful to invite my ex-husband's new stepkids while excluding mine. She tried to downplay it, saying it wasn't personal and that it was about roles in the ceremony, not favoritism. I told her straight up that if my children weren't welcome, I wouldn't be coming. She said that was dramatic and accused me of trying to make her wedding about me. Then Daniel called me the next day, furious. Apparently, Emma had told him what I said. He accused me of punishing our kids by refusing to go. I told him the kids aren't being punished. They're not invited. He said it's not my place to boycott the wedding and that I'm making things awkward for everyone. A few days later, my parents got involved. They told me they understand why I'm upset, but that I should be the bigger person and attend anyway, so as not to cause a scene. My mother said, Emma just wants a perfect day. Don't ruin it for her. I told her Emma already ruined it by showing blatant favoritism toward my ex's new family. The thing that hurts most is that my kids don't understand. My daughter asked why she couldn't be a flower girl like she was for my cousin's wedding last year. How do you explain to a 10-year-old that her aunt prefers her dad's new wife's children over her? Last weekend, we all got together at my parents' house for my dad's birthday, and of course the wedding came up. Emma acted like everything was normal. Lacey and Daniel were there too, and Lacey made a comment about how excited her kids are to be part of the big day. I just looked at Emma and said, yeah, must be nice for them. My kids will just have to watch the pictures later, I guess. It got very tense after that. Later, Emma pulled me aside and said I embarrassed her. I told her maybe she should be embarrassed for how she's treating her own niece and nephew. She said I was being toxic and vindictive, and that she was reconsidering whether she even wanted me there if I was going to bring bad energy. I told her she didn't have to worry. I wouldn't be attending at all. Now my entire family is split. My parents are begging me to reconsider because it's just one day, and they don't want family drama overshadowing the event. My brother told me he's on my side, but is staying out of it because there's no winning against Emma when she's in wedding mode. Daniel keeps texting me passive-aggressive messages about how I'm teaching the kids to hold grudges. I honestly don't know if I overreacted. I understand that it's Emma's wedding and she can technically invite whoever she wants, but the hypocrisy and emotional insensitivity are insane to me. My kids have known her their entire lives. She babysat them when they were toddlers. She comes to their birthday parties. She's godmother to my son. And now, suddenly, she's choosing to give that honor to the children of the woman who helped blow up my marriage. It feels like a betrayal on multiple levels, not just as a sister, but as a mother. My kids are heartbroken. I'm humiliated, and my family is acting like I'm the unreasonable one for setting a boundary. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she invited my ex-husband's stepkids but not my own children. AITA for refusing to let my sister move back in with me after she blew up my engagement. So I, 29F, have a sister, Erin, 26F. We were pretty close growing up, mostly because our parents were the kind of people who thought that making siblings compete for attention was motivating. Erin was the golden child, prettier, louder, always in the spotlight. I was the responsible one, the one who cleaned up the messes. I didn't resent her exactly, but I learned early that if I wanted peace, I had to be the one to step back. About 3 years ago, Erin's life kind of fell apart. She broke up with her boyfriend of 5 years, lost her job, and had to move out of her apartment all in the same month. I had just bought a small house with my fiancé, Jake, 31M, and since we had a spare room, I offered to let her stay with us for a while. It was supposed to be for 3 months, just until she got back on her feet. The first few weeks were fine. She was mopey, sure, but I figured she needed time. Jake and I tried to include her in movie nights, dinners, little outings. But as the weeks went by, she started getting comfortable, too comfortable. She never paid rent, didn't clean, and spent most days lying on the couch watching reality TV. I'd come home from work to find dishes piled up and laundry half done. When I'd ask her to help out, she'd roll her eyes and say, "You're sounding like Mom." The turning point came one evening when Jake and I had some friends over. We were hosting a little wine and cheese night, and Erin came downstairs wearing one of my dresses, tight, sparkly, definitely not something you wear casually at home. Everyone noticed, including Jake. I was uncomfortable, but I didn't want to make a scene, so I tried to shrug it off. Later that night, one of my friends pulled me aside and said Erin had been flirting with Jake pretty blatantly when I wasn't looking. I confronted Erin about it afterward, and she laughed it off, saying, "Relax, it's just harmless fun. You know Jake would never go for me." After that, things got tense. Jake swore he wasn't interested, and I believed him. But Erin's behavior got worse. She'd accidentally walk into our bedroom without knocking, sit too close to Jake on the couch, make little comments about how lucky I was. It was exhausting. Then came a night, everything exploded. Jake and I had gone out to dinner, and when we got back, Erin was sitting in the living room crying. She said Jake had made a move on her while I was in the bathroom earlier that week. Jake was stunned and swore it wasn't true. I didn't know what to believe. I was shaken, angry, confused. Erin cried and said she didn't want to tell me because she didn't want to ruin things. I asked Jake to leave for the night while I figured things out. He stayed at a friend's place, and Erin spent the night playing the victim, saying, "I always knew he was too good to be true." The next morning, Jake sent me a long message explaining everything. He said Erin had been the one who tried to kiss him, and when he rejected her, she told him not to tell me. He even offered to take a polygraph test. I confronted Erin again, and she immediately changed her story. First, she said it was just a misunderstanding. Then, when I pressed her, she admitted she might have misread things. Finally, she broke down and said she was jealous, that I'd always had everything together, and she wanted to feel wanted for once. I told her to pack her things and get out. She begged me not to abandon her, but I was done. Jake eventually moved back in, and after a few painful weeks, we worked through it. We even went to couples therapy to rebuild trust. Things aren't perfect, but we're okay now. That was almost 2 years ago. Erin and I haven't spoken much since. She moved in with a friend for a while, then apparently bounced between jobs and couches. I didn't block her, but I didn't reach out either. Last month, she called me out of the blue. She said she'd finally gotten clean. I didn't even know she had been using, had left a toxic relationship, and was trying to rebuild her life. She sounded sincere. Then she asked if she could stay with us again for just a few months. I immediately said no. I told her I was glad she was trying to turn things around, but I couldn't risk bringing that chaos back into my life. She started crying, saying she had nowhere else to go and that she'd learned her lesson. When I didn't change my mind, she got angry and said I was holding a grudge and that family is supposed to forgive. Later, my mom called me. She said Erin had shown up at her place, but Mom's house is tiny and she can't afford another person there. She asked if I could just give her a chance. I told her no again. Mom sighed and said I was being cold. Jake told me he supports whatever decision I make, but I can tell he's relieved I said no. Still, I can't shake this guilt. I know Erin's had a rough few years, and part of me still feels responsible for her. But another part of me remembers the humiliation, the tears, and the way she almost blew up my life for good. A few days ago, Erin sent me a long message about how she feels like the black sheep and that everyone deserves redemption. She ended it with, "I thought sisters were supposed to help each other." I haven't replied. My friends are split. Some say I'm doing the right thing and protecting my peace. Others say I should at least give her a trial run or help her find a place. But I know how this goes. She moves in, things start off okay, and then it all unravels again. Still, I can't help but wonder if I'm the bad guy for shutting the door on someone who's trying to make amends. Maybe she really has changed. Maybe I'm being too harsh. Or maybe, after everything she did, protecting myself isn't cruelty. It's just finally learning where the line is. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister move back in after she nearly destroyed my relationship. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's symbolic wedding because she uninvited my husband over a vibe issue. So I, 31F, have been married to my husband Jason, 34M, for 4 years. We've been together for almost a decade, and we're that couple who actually likes each other. We go on trips, cook together, and we're each other's person. My sister, Emma, 28F, and I used to be super close, but that's been fading over the last 2 years, especially since she started dating her now fiancé, Ryan, 32M. Ryan is one of those guys who talks like he's the main character in a movie. He's always manifesting energy, cleansing spaces, and aligning frequencies. He's not a bad guy, but he's intense. He'll walk into a room and say something like, "The energy here feels off. Who's been arguing?" It's exhausting. Emma has fully adopted his lifestyle. Everything is about vibrations, crystals, and spiritual alignment now. Which, fine if it makes her happy, but it's changed the dynamic in our family a lot. The wedding is scheduled for mid-November, but they already had a legal ceremony earlier this year because they wanted to align their souls with the solstice. So this upcoming event is a symbolic union in the forest, complete with a shaman, energy readers, and guests wearing specific colors based on their aura classification. My mom is beige, whatever that means. My dad is emerald, and I was a sign lavender. Everything was going fine until about 3 weeks ago when Emma called me in tears, saying she had a spiritual crisis. Apparently, during one of her and Ryan's pre-wedding sessions with their energy reader, The reader told them that someone close to the bride carries a disruptive masculine energy that could imbalance the ritual. Emma said they meditated on it and concluded that it was Jason. I actually laughed because Jason is the least disruptive person I know. He's calm, polite, and not remotely confrontational. But Emma was serious. She said she and Ryan didn't want to risk their energy ceremony being thrown off and asked if I could attend without him. I told her that was ridiculous and asked what exactly was so bad about Jason's energy. She said, he's too rational. His skepticism blocks spiritual flow. Jason isn't even vocal about his skepticism. He's respectful and keeps his opinions to himself. The only time he's ever said anything was when Ryan spent 20 minutes trying to cleanse our living room during a visit, and Jason said, just so you know, we have cats. You might want to check if that smoke's safe for them. That's it. Apparently, that made him disrespectful of sacred practices. I told Emma that if Jason wasn't welcome, I wasn't coming either. She got upset and said I was being selfish and that this was about her spiritual peace, not me or Jason. She told me I should just be flexible and understand that this is bigger than the physical realm. I said, yeah, and this is the real world, not Hogwarts. I'm not leaving my husband out because your boyfriend thinks his aura clashes with yours. Now, my parents are in the middle. My mom thinks it's absurd, but says I should just go and keep the peace because it's one day, and Emma's very stressed. My dad says he supports whatever decision I make, but I can tell he wants the drama to die down. Emma texted me yesterday, saying she was heartbroken that I was abandoning her on her spiritual journey, and that my loyalty to a closed-minded man was sad. I told her my loyalty is to my marriage, not her energy consultant. That set off another storm. She told our family group chat that I was spiritually toxic and unwilling to ascend with her. Jason just shook his head and said, well, I guess I'll keep being unascended. Then Ryan called me personally to mediate. He said he respects my decision to stay home, but wanted to invite me to reflect on whether Jason's vibration might indeed be blocking my own spiritual growth. I asked him, do you hear how manipulative that sounds? He replied, manipulation is a word humans use when they fear transformation. That was the moment I decided I was done. Now, the wedding is 2 weeks away, and half my family thinks I'm an *** hole for not being there. My mom said Emma cried for hours, saying I chose a man over my own sister. My aunt messaged me that families should transcend differences in belief systems, but I don't see how excluding my husband based on imaginary energy interference is something I should support. Here's the thing, I love my sister. I want her to be happy, and if this spiritual life brings her peace, that's great. But I don't want to validate something that's rooted in excluding someone I love over pure nonsense. It feels cult-like, honestly. My sister has always been sensitive and easily influenced, and I worry Ryan's controlling her under the guise of spirituality. The weirdest part? Jason took it all with grace. He told me, go if you want to. Don't let me be the reason you miss your sister's big day. But I could see it hurt him. He'd done nothing wrong, and now he's being treated like some kind of energy contaminant. I can't stomach standing there, pretending it's fine while he's home alone because my sister's guru decided he has bad vibes. My family keeps pressuring me, saying I'll regret missing a once-in-a-lifetime event. But honestly, it feels like Emma already replaced her family with her new spiritual tribe. She doesn't even talk like herself anymore. Everything is frequencies and soul ascension and energetic boundaries. I miss the version of her who used to laugh with me over dumb memes and binge-watch bad reality TV. Now, if I send her something funny, she'll reply, that's low-vibrational content. Maybe she's happy, but it doesn't feel like she's herself. And I feel like going to that wedding would mean I'm co-signing this whole dynamic that's pulled her away from everyone. My mom said maybe I could compromise by attending just the dinner after the ceremony, but Emma told her that the energy of the event would still be contaminated if I brought my physical form that's energetically linked to Jason. So, apparently, I'm banned by association now. Great. So here I am, torn between wanting to support my sister and not wanting to betray my husband or my own sense of reality. AITA for refusing to go to my sister's symbolic wedding because she uninvited my husband over his so-called bad energy. AITA for refusing to move my late sister's cat out of my house, even though my fiancé is allergic and says it's ruining our future. I-29F, live with my fiancé Mark, 31M. We've been together for 5 years and got engaged last spring. Everything was fine until my sister Emily passed away in a car accident 8 months ago. It was sudden, brutal, and completely shattered me. She was only 26. We were extremely close. She was my best friend, my only sibling, and honestly more like a twin, even though we were 3 years apart. Emily had a cat, a fluffy orange thing named Toast, that she'd had since college. Toast is 8 years old, a little fat, and very clingy. After the funeral, nobody in the family could take him. My parents have 2 large dogs that would probably terrorize him, and our aunt is severely allergic. I couldn't stomach the idea of Toast going to shelter, so I took him home. Mark wasn't thrilled. He's mildly allergic. Not the kind that sends him to the ER, but enough that he sneezes, gets watery eyes, and has to use an inhaler sometimes if he's around cats for too long. But at the time, he told me it was fine for a short while. Fast forward to now. It's been 8 months, and Toast is very much part of my life. He sleeps on my bed every night, follows me around, and honestly has been one of the few things keeping me from spiraling after Emily's death. When I'm crying, he crawls into my lap. When I come home from work, he greets me like a tiny orange security guard. He's the last living thing that Emily loved and cared for daily. Mark has been increasingly vocal about how miserable he feels. He vacuums constantly, keeps windows open even when it's cold, and uses air purifiers. He's gone through multiple allergy medications, but he still complains. He says his breathing is worse, that he wakes up congested, and that Toast scratches the furniture, which is true. A few weeks ago, Mark sat me down and said he couldn't live like this anymore. He told me he loves me and wants a future together, but that Toast has to go. He even suggested that we honor Emily by giving the cat a better home, as if I haven't already done that. I told him flat out no, Toast is family. Mark got upset and said I was choosing a cat over him. He reminded me that we've been talking about buying a house next year and starting a family, and that he can't do that if he's constantly wheezing. He asked if I'd even considered his health, or if I'm just clinging to Toast because of my grief. That hit me hard, but I told him yes, it's grief, and that's not a bad thing. I said Toast is the last part of Emily that feels real, and I'm not emotionally ready to give that up. I also pointed out that his allergy isn't life-threatening, and that there are treatments and even immunotherapy he could try if this is truly about long-term plans. He said it's unfair to expect him to spend thousands on allergy treatments for a cat that shouldn't even be here. Since then, it's been tense. We've been sleeping in separate rooms because Toast sleeps with me. He's been staying at his brother's apartment a few nights a week. When he's home, he complains about the smell, the fur, the sneezing. I feel like I'm living with a ghost of my relationship. Everything feels brittle and distant. Last weekend, my mom came over for dinner. Mark wasn't there. I told her what was going on, hoping she'd understand, but she surprised me by taking Mark's side. She said that while she loves Toast too, Emily wouldn't have wanted me to destroy my future over a cat. She told me I'm clinging too tightly to the past, and that maybe it's time to let go with love. I started crying and said I can't let go. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Toast curls up on Emily's old blanket every night. I swear sometimes I feel like she's still with me when I hear his tiny snores. My mom hugged me, but said softly, "Then maybe you're not ready to get married either." That sentence has been echoing in my head. Mark came home yesterday and gave me an ultimatum. Either Toast goes to a new home within a month, or he's moving out for good. He said he's already been offered a position in another city for work and could easily take it. He said he's tired of being the bad guy while I prioritize my dead sister's cat over my living fiancé. I told him if he really thought Toast was the problem, he'd stay somewhere else temporarily and let me figure out how to manage both. Instead, he's making me choose, and I can't. Now my friends are split. Half of them say I'm grieving and not thinking clearly, that losing Mark would make everything worse. The other half say any man who makes you choose between love and grief doesn't understand either. To complicate things more, Toast's health isn't great. He has early kidney issues, and the vet said it might shorten his lifespan. The idea of rehoming him at this stage feels cruel. He's already lost Emily. I can't make him lose me too. I keep replaying the moment when I picked Toast up from Emily's apartment after her death. He was sitting by the door, waiting like he thought she'd come home. When I picked him up, he pressed his head into my chest and purred. I promised him then that I'd take care of him. I can't break that promise. But I also can't ignore that Mark is right. He is miserable. He's tried, and I can tell he's at his limit. We're supposed to get married in 6 months. I can't even imagine walking down the aisle without knowing where Toast will live. Every time Mark talks about wedding plans, all I can picture is that empty spot on the couch where Toast would normally nap. So now I'm at crossroads. I either keep Toast and likely lose Mark, or give up Toast and lose one of the only pieces of Emily I have left. When I told Mark last night that I wasn't giving up Toast, he just nodded and said, "Then I guess you made your choice." He packed a bag and left. He texted me this morning saying he'll come by next week to get more of his things. I haven't responded yet. Toast is sleeping next to me as I write this, completely unaware that he might have just cost me my relationship. I don't even know what's right anymore. Am I the asshole for refusing to give up my sister's cat, even if it means ending my engagement? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's no phones, no photos, no social media wedding and telling her she was being controlling? So I, 29F, have a younger sister, Emily, 26F, who has always been the main character type. She's beautiful, charismatic, and has this way of making every room revolve around her. I love her, but growing up with her was exhausting. She'd cry if I got better grades. She'd sulk if I got attention at family events. And she was the golden child who somehow convinced everyone she was the victim if things didn't go her way. Emily got engaged last year to her fiancé, Mark, 28M. They're a very influencer-y couple, always posting matching outfits, perfect vacation shots, couple challenges, and so on. Their engagement announcement was a professional video with slow-motion drone footage. I honestly thought it was sweet at first, even if it was a little over the top. Fast forward to this summer, when wedding planning really kicked off. Emily announced it would be a strictly private, unplugged event, meaning no phones, no photos, no videos, no social media posts whatsoever. She wanted everyone to be present in the moment. On the surface, that sounded fine. I even thought it might be refreshing to not have people snapping photos during every second. But then the rules started piling up. She sent out a 10-page wedding etiquette guide. It included things like guests were required to hand over their phones at the entrance to be locked in sealed pouches for the entire weekend, not just the ceremony. No personal cameras or smartwatches allowed. Guests couldn't discuss any details of the wedding online before, during, or after. No one could bring dates unless pre-approved by Emily. Guests had to wear neutral colors only so that she and Mark would stand out in every frame. I'm not exaggerating. She literally wrote, no loud colors, no patterns, no hair colors that distract from the bride's aesthetic. My boyfriend, Ryan, 31M, and I had already booked flights and a hotel since it was a destination wedding in another state. When we got this guide, I called Emily and asked if the phone restriction applied even during downtime, like when we weren't at the ceremony or reception. She said yes. She didn't want the vibe ruined by anyone scrolling or taking selfies during the weekend. I told her that was unreasonable because I needed to be reachable for work emergencies. I'm a nurse and occasionally on call. Emily got defensive and said that if I couldn't disconnect for 72 hours, I clearly didn't care about her or the meaning of her wedding. I told her that wasn't fair. I can't just vanish completely from the world. She said, then don't come if you can't follow the rules. So I didn't. I told her calmly that I loved her, but I wasn't comfortable being cut off from communication for 3 days. She flipped out, accused me of being unsupportive, and told our parents that I was boycotting her wedding out of jealousy. My parents begged me to reconsider because Emily was so stressed and just wanted a perfect day. I held firm and stayed home. The wedding weekend came and went. Apparently, it was a whole production. She had professional photographers, a documentary crew, and stylists flown in. But guess what? A week later, she uploaded a cinematic wedding video to her Instagram with the caption, "Our private unplugged celebration." The video was edited with guests in the background, everyone laughing and dancing, all filmed beautifully. So much for no cameras. I commented on the video, something like, "Looks beautiful. So glad you had professionals capturing it since the rest of us weren't allowed to." I thought it was a light-hearted joke, but apparently not. She called me crying, saying I was mocking her publicly and trying to ruin the narrative she'd created. Then she blocked me. Our mom later called and said Emily was devastated because people were asking if she'd banned her own sister from the wedding. I explained everything, but my mom thinks I should apologize to keep the peace. She says I embarrassed Emily on social media. I said Emily embarrassed herself by enforcing ridiculous rules just to look authentic online. Ryan thinks I did nothing wrong, but now my parents barely talk to me, and my sister hasn't unblocked me. I genuinely didn't mean to start family drama. I just didn't want to be treated like a prop in her performance. Here's where it gets more complicated. A few weeks later, Emily's best friend, who was maid of honor, sent me some screenshots from their group chat. Apparently, Emily told her bridesmaids before the wedding that the no phones rule was partly to prevent unflattering candidates from getting out. She said, "I want full control over how my wedding is remembered." She even said she didn't want to bring my phone because I always post ugly pictures. That part really hurt. I know I'm not photogenic, but hearing that she literally made a rule to stop me from taking pictures because she didn't trust me to make her look good, that stung. I still haven't spoken to her. My parents think I'm being petty for holding a grudge, but I feel like she used the wedding to control everyone around her. I try to draw a reasonable boundary, and somehow I became the villain. Lately, I've started wondering if I was too harsh. Maybe I could have just gone and dealt with the inconvenience for the sake of family harmony. But at the same time, it feels wrong that she gets to create these extreme rules, then play victim when people don't comply. I don't hate Emily. I honestly wish her the best, but I also don't want to keep apologizing just because she can't handle being told no. My parents say family is more important than pride, but I think boundaries matter too, even when it's family. So Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to attend my sister's no phones wedding and for making that comment afterward? AITA for refusing to let my mom move in with me after she gave away my college fund to my sister 10 years ago. 29F, bought my first house last year. It's a small 2-bedroom place in a quiet neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. I've been saving for years, working 2 jobs through college and most of my 20s because I didn't have a financial cushion growing up. My mom, 56F, raised me and my younger sister, Emily, 26F, mostly on her own after my dad left when we were kids. We never had much money, but I always knew that there was a college fund for me. My grandparents, Dad's parents, had started it when I was born and put a few thousand in each year until they passed. I remember hearing my mom talk about it when I was in middle school, saying how lucky I was to have something set aside for college. Fast forward to my senior year of high school. I got accepted to a good state university, and when I brought up the college fund, my mom told me she had used some of it when things got tough a few years earlier. She said there was still a bit left. I didn't think too much of it at the time because I assumed she wouldn't have touched it unless she had to. When I got the financial aid breakdown, it turned out there was nothing left in the account. I asked her what happened, and she said, "It went to keeping a roof over our heads. You can take out loans." So I did. I graduated with about $70,000 in student loans. 2 years later, Emily graduated high school, and suddenly she was going to the same university I did, with no loans. Mom proudly announced that she'd figured things out so Emily wouldn't have to start life in debt. Later, I learned from an aunt that Mom had used money from selling my grandparents' old lake cabin, which was supposed to be split between both of us when we turned 25, to pay Emily's tuition in full. When I confronted Mom about it, she said she felt guilty about spending my college fund and wanted to make it right with the next kid. I was livid. I told her it wasn't making it right if she just screwed over a different person. We fought badly and didn't talk for almost a year. Eventually we reconciled, but things were never the same. I built my own life. I worked hard, paid off my loans, and finally bought my house. Mom and I kept in touch, mostly holidays and birthdays, but she's always been closer with Emily. I accepted that. A few months ago, Mom called me in tears. She had to move out of her apartment, because the landlord was selling and she couldn't afford the new rent anywhere nearby. She asked if she could stay with me for a little while until she got back on her feet. I hesitated, but said we'd talk about it. I asked about her savings or retirement, and she said she didn't have much. She'd co-signed on Emily's car loan and helped with Emily's wedding expenses last year. I told her I didn't think I could take her in right now because my mortgage is tight and I value my space. She got quiet and said, "I thought family helped each other." Then Emily called me. She said Mom was heartbroken and accused me of punishing her forever for something that happened years ago. I told her that Mom made choices that had long-term consequences. I said I'd be willing to help Mom financially a little, maybe pay for a motel or help her find a roommate situation, but I wasn't opening my home to her. Emily told me I was being cold and selfish, especially since Mom sacrificed everything for us. I pointed out that Mom's sacrifices always seemed to mean I was the one who got the short end. Emily hung up on me. Since then, I've been getting texts from both of them. Mom says she understands if I don't want her there permanently, but just needs a few months. Emily keeps saying I'm cruel for making Mom homeless. But here's the thing. I know exactly how this would go. Mom would move in, tell me it's just for a bit, then slowly start treating my place like it's hers. She has a history of guilt-tripping me into extending things just until I can manage. I'd end up paying for everything and resenting it. I spent my whole adult life clawing out of that dynamic. I finally have a home that's peaceful and stable. My boyfriend, 31M, who sometimes stays over, supports my decision. He said, "You've carried the consequences of her choices for a decade. It's okay to set boundaries." But my extended family, especially my mom's sisters, are calling me ungrateful and saying I owe her because she did her best as a single mom. I don't deny that she struggled, but she also lied to me about the college fund, then turned around and used inheritance money that was meant for both of us entirely on my sister. When I bring this up, people say I'm rehashing the past and holding grudges. Still, I can't shake the anger. I don't think I owe her my home just because she's in a tough spot, especially when she's the reason I had to start adulthood in debt while Emily got everything handed to her. To be clear, I'm not cutting her off. I've already looked into local resources and told her I'd help pay for temporary housing if she needs it. I even offer to have her over for dinner once a week so she doesn't feel abandoned. But she says that's not real family. Now I'm getting guilt-tripped every day, and I'm starting to question myself. My mom is in a bad situation, and part of me feels horrible for not helping more. But another part of me knows that letting her move in would destroy my peace and reopen old wounds I've worked hard to heal. AITA for refusing to let my mom move in, even though she has nowhere else to go. AITA for refusing to let my sister's kids sleep in my house after what they did last time. So I, 33F, bought my first home about 2 years ago. It's nothing huge or fancy, but it's mine, and I'm proud of it. I spent years saving, fixing my credit, and working overtime shifts to afford a decent down payment. It's a small 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood. I've put a lot of love into decorating it and keeping it clean, something that's important to me because I grew up in chaos. My sister, Tina, 36F, is my only sibling. She has 3 kids, 11M, 9F, and 6M. Tina's life has been a roller coaster since her divorce. She works full-time, but money is tight. I help when I can, birthday gifts for the kids, groceries when she's struggling, occasionally paying her phone bill. We're not super close, but I've always tried to be this stable one in the family. Last year, Tina's apartment building had plumbing issues, and she asked if she and the kids could stay with me for a few days. I said yes, of course. I set up my guest room and gave the older 2 kids my office with air mattresses. The first 2 days were fine, but then things got wild. The kids treated my house like a playground. They jumped on furniture, smeared peanut butter on my couch, drew on the walls with markers, and broke one of my lamps. I tried to be calm about it, but Tina brushed everything off as kids being kids. I work from home, and during that week, I could barely focus. They were loud, messy, and completely ignored the boundaries I tried to set. The breaking point came on the 5th day. I came downstairs to find the youngest had somehow gotten into the laundry room and poured detergent all over my floors. Well, I told Tina I couldn't handle it anymore and that she needed to find somewhere else to stay. She got defensive and accused me of being uptight and childless, so I wouldn't understand. She packed up angrily and left that night, slamming the door so hard it cracked part of the frame. After that, we didn't talk much for months. Eventually, we reconciled enough to be civil at family gatherings, but things never went back to normal. Fast forward to last month. Tina called me in tears because her landlord was doing pest control and everyone in her building had to vacate for 2 nights. She asked if she and the kids could stay with me again. I immediately felt anxious remembering last time, so I told her I wasn't comfortable hosting the kids overnight, but could help her pay for a motel nearby. She got quiet for a moment and then asked, "Are you serious? You'd rather pay money than just let your own family stay in your house for 2 nights?" I told her yes because I remembered how stressful it was last time and I didn't want to go through that again. She hung up without saying goodbye. Later, my mom called me, furious. She said I was being heartless and that Tina was a struggling single mom who needed help, not rejection. I explained what happened last time, but my mom said, "Kids make messes. That's life. You should be more compassionate." I told her compassion doesn't mean sacrificing my peace or property. My dad, on the other hand, said he understood and that I did the right thing offering to pay for a motel. He reminded me that Tina has always relied on others to clean up her messes, literally and figuratively. Still, my mom kept guilt-tripping me for days, saying family helps family, and accusing me of looking down on my sister. Tina didn't speak to me for 3 weeks after that. Then, last weekend, we saw each other at a cousin's birthday party. She avoided me at first, but later, she confronted me in front of our relatives. She said, "I can't believe you'd slam the door in your own niece and nephew's faces. They love you, and they were so excited to stay with Aunt Sarah. You broke their hearts." I told her I was sorry the kids were disappointed, but last time they stayed, things got out of hand. She immediately said, "They were younger then. You're just punishing me for being a single mom." I didn't want to argue, so I said we could talk another time. But she kept going, calling me selfish and saying I cared more about my furniture than my family. Some of our relatives tried to calm her down, but others looked at me like I was a monster. I ended up leaving early because I was shaking with embarrassment. That night, I texted her and said I love my niece and nephews, but that she needed to respect my boundaries. I also told her that I'd always be happy to help financially or babysit at her place, but I couldn't host them again. She didn't reply. Now, some of my family members think I overreacted, while others, mostly the ones who've dealt with Tina's chaos, said I was right to draw the line. Still, I can't help but feel guilty. Maybe I could have given her another chance. Maybe the kids really have grown up since last year. But I also remember how exhausted and resentful I felt cleaning up after them for days. This whole thing has turned into family drama, with my mom saying things like, "You'll understand when you have kids," and my dad telling me not to cave in just to keep the peace. Even my aunt, who's usually neutral, said, "You shouldn't have embarrassed your sister by refusing. It makes her feel like a burden." The thing is, I never meant to embarrass anyone. I just wanted to protect my home and my sanity. My house is my safe space. I worked so hard for it, and last time they stayed, it didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt like a daycare run by a tornado. It's been about 2 weeks since the party, and the silence between Tina and me feels heavier than before. I know she's telling people I kicked her kids out and refused to help. Part of me wants to call her and explain again, but another part of me feels like I already did, and it didn't matter. I keep wondering if I could have handled it differently. Maybe I could have set stricter rules, supervised more closely, or limited their stay to 1 night. But I also know Tina doesn't enforce rules well, and I'd probably end up being the bad guy again if I try to discipline her kids. So now I'm stuck wondering if I was wrong for saying no, even after last time. Was it selfish of me to protect my peace, or was I just setting a reasonable boundary? AITA for refusing to let my sister's kids stay in my house again after how they behaved before? Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to let my sister and her kids move into my house even though I have more space than I need. So, I, 34F, bought my own house about 2 years ago. It's not a mansion, but it's a comfortable 4-bedroom place with a finished basement, a nice backyard, and a little office I use for my remote job. I worked my ass off for this. I lived frugally for years, saved every extra penny, skipped vacations, and even worked 2 jobs at one point. Finally, I was able to put down a solid down payment and get a good mortgage rate. Owning this home is honestly one of the proudest accomplishments of my life. Enter my older sister, Vanessa, 38F. She's always been the opposite of me. Where I'm cautious and organized, she's impulsive and constantly chasing the next big thing. She's also a single mom of 3 kids, 12M, 9F, and 6M. Their dad is barely in the picture and sends irregular child support payments when he feels like it. Vanessa has always struggled financially, but she also refuses to stick to one plan for more than a few months. One minute she's going to start an Etsy shop, the next she's convinced she'll make a living as a TikTok influencer. She quits jobs constantly because they don't value her creativity. About 6 months ago, Vanessa called me in tears because her landlord had sold the house she was renting. She had 60 days to find a new place, and rent prices had gone up so much that she couldn't find anything in her budget. I felt bad, I really did. But I also know that Vanessa's always been a bit reckless with money. Still, I lent her $1,000 to help with moving costs. A few weeks later, she told me she still hadn't found a new place and was starting to panic. I suggested looking for smaller apartments, moving to a cheaper area, or even finding a roommate. She said none of that was realistic for a family. Then she dropped the bomb. You have all those empty rooms. Why can't we just move in with you for a while? I'll admit, my first reaction was panic. Vanessa and her kids are loud, messy, and chaotic. I love my nieces and nephews, but every visit ends with my house looking like a tornado hit it. I have white walls, nice furniture, and a cat that doesn't do well with kids. My home is my peaceful place after years of living in shared apartments. The idea of losing that peace was terrifying. I told Vanessa I'd think about it, but after a few days I decided I couldn't do it. I called her and said no, explaining that I value my space and my routine, and that living together could cause tension. I even offered to help her find other options. I said I'd co-sign a short-term lease or help her look for rent assistance programs. She got quiet for a second and then said, "Wow, I can't believe my own sister would let her family become homeless when she has a literal guest room and basement sitting empty." I tried to explain that it wasn't about the space, it was about the situation. She cut me off and hung up. For the next few days, she didn't talk to me. Then my mom called. She said Vanessa told her everything and that she was heartbroken. My mom said she understood that I like my privacy, but family comes first. She added that Vanessa has nowhere else to go and that it would just be for a little while. I told my mom that a little while with Vanessa usually turns into forever. My mom sighed and said, "You're going to regret this when those kids remember that their aunt let them live in a car." That stung. A week later, I saw a Facebook post from Vanessa that said, "It's amazing how quickly people show their true colors when you need them most." Dozens of comments poured in. Friends saying how awful it was that her own family wouldn't help, that people with money forget what it's like to struggle, and that kids shouldn't suffer because adults are selfish. I didn't comment, but I was furious. My name wasn't in the post, but everyone who knows us knew exactly who she was talking about. A mutual cousin even texted me, saying, "Couldn't you just help out for a few months? You have the room." I replied that it wasn't about space, it was about boundaries. He said, "Boundaries are great until kids are sleeping in a car." I blocked him after that. Then, a few weeks later, Vanessa showed up at my door. I'm not kidding. She had her car packed full of stuff and the kids sitting in the back seat. She said, "Please, I don't know what else to do." My stomach dropped. I told her I was sorry, but she couldn't move in. She started crying and saying she thought I'd change my mind once I saw them. The oldest kid looked embarrassed, the middle one looked confused, and the youngest was half asleep. It broke my heart, but I stood firm. I gave her $500 and told her to use it for a motel until she figured something out. She took the money without a word and drove off. Since then, my family has completely turned against me. My mom and aunt both said they're disgusted with me. My brother, who lives across the country, said he gets it, but that I could have helped more. Even my co-workers heard about it because Vanessa posted another cryptic message. Some people would rather have empty rooms than full hearts. I feel sick over the whole thing. I love my sister and her kids, but I also know how she operates. If I let them move in, they'd stay indefinitely. I'd become responsible for feeding them, cleaning up after them, paying higher bills, and dealing with her constant drama. And once she got comfortable, she'd never leave. But I can't shake the guilt. The idea that my nieces and nephews might actually be struggling to find a place to sleep makes me feel like the worst person alive. At the same time, I worked so hard to build a stable, peaceful life, and I'm terrified of losing it. A few friends have told me I did the right thing, that Vanessa has to learn to take responsibility for her choices and that it's not my job to fix her mistakes. But every time I see a family at the park or kids playing outside their home, I think about those three and wonder if I've become the kind of person I never wanted to be. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister and her kids move in, even though I had the space and they didn't have anywhere else to go. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's child-free wedding, even though I'm her maid of honor. So I, 29F, am the oldest of three siblings. My sister Lily, 27F, is getting married in February, and I was asked to be her maid of honor about a year ago. I was honestly thrilled when she asked because we've always been close, and I know how much she's dreamed of this wedding. I started helping her plan immediately. Venue scouting, cake tasting, designing invitations, and even handling deposits when she and her fiancé were busy. Basically, I've been her unpaid wedding planner on top of being the maid of honor. The issue started a few weeks ago when she finalized her guest list and decided to make her wedding child-free. Now, normally I have no problem with that. I understand that some couples want an adult-only event, and I respect that completely. But I'm a single mom of a 6-year-old boy named Jamie. He's my entire world. His dad isn't involved, and I don't have a co-parent or reliable babysitter besides my mom, who is also invited to the wedding. When Lily announced the no kids rule, I assumed she'd make an exception for Jamie since he's family, and I'm literally her maid of honor. But when I brought it up, she told me very firmly that there would be no exceptions. She said she wanted a classy, elegant evening without screaming children or distractions. I told her I completely understood her vision, but I couldn't find anyone to watch Jamie that weekend, especially since the wedding is out of town, 3 hours away from where I live. I asked if he could come to the ceremony quietly, and then my mom or I could take him back to the hotel before the reception. Lily refused, saying she didn't even want kids at the ceremony because she wanted aesthetic consistency in the photos. I tried to explain how much that put me in a bind. If I couldn't bring Jamie, that meant I couldn't come at all. Lily told me I was choosing my kid over her one special day. I reminded her that I always choose my kid because I'm his mom. She got upset and said I was making her wedding about me. For context, Lily doesn't have kids and has never really understood what single motherhood is like. She often says things like you should get out more, or you can always find someone to babysit. She doesn't get that babysitting isn't free, and not everyone wants to spend an entire weekend watching a 6-year-old. Over the next few weeks, she and my mom both kept bringing it up. My mom offered to skip the wedding to stay with Jamie, but I told her that wasn't fair. She's Lily's mom too, and should be there. My brother suggested I just find a sitter online, but I'm not comfortable leaving my kid with a stranger for 2 nights in another city. Finally, last week, Lily sent me a long text saying she was deeply hurt that I was even considering not attending. She said as maid of honor, I had obligations, and that she expected me to honor my commitment. She also said she'd already ordered personalized gifts and planned parts of the ceremony around me. I replied that I'd love to be there if Jamie could come, even if he stayed quiet in the back or only attended the ceremony. But if not, I'd sadly have to decline. That's when all hell broke loose. She accused me of being selfish, said I was ruining her wedding, and even told some family members that I was boycotting her big day out of spite. Now, several relatives have been messaging me, saying I'm overreacting and that I should just make it work. One aunt offered to keep Jamie in her hotel room during the wedding, but she's in her 70s and barely knows him. I don't feel comfortable with that either. To make things worse, Lily went on a bit of social media rant about people who can't respect boundaries. She didn't name me, but everyone in our circle knew who she meant. My phone blew up with messages, and I've been getting guilt-tripped nonstop. I feel awful because I do love my sister, and I wanted to be part of her special day. But I can't physically split myself in two. I can't abandon my kid for a weekend just to keep the peace. I also think it's unfair to demand that someone choose between their child and a wedding invitation. My mom is now torn because she wants both of her daughters there, and she's been begging me to reconsider. Lily still hasn't spoken to me directly since that last text, and she's apparently considering replacing me as maid of honor. Honestly, that might be for the best at this point, but I still feel sick about it. A few of my friends say Lily is being unreasonable and elitist, while others think it's her right to have a child-free wedding and that I should respect her rules. I agree that it's her choice, but I also think it's my choice not to attend if those rules make it impossible for me to go. Part of me wonders if I should have tried harder to find a sitter or asked another family member to help, even if it was awkward. But the other part of me feels like Lily drew an impossible line in the sand and then blamed me for not magically fixing it. The thing that stings most is how quickly she turned this into a personal attack, saying I don't support her, that I always make everything about being a mom, and that people manage childcare all the time. She has no idea what that's like when you're doing it completely solo. I keep replaying the situation in my head. If roles were reversed and she had a child, I'd absolutely make an exception for my niece or nephew. Family should matter more than some arbitrary aesthetic. Now I'm stuck between feeling guilty for missing her big day and feeling angry that she's forcing me into this position. The wedding is in 3 months, and we still haven't resolved anything. Every time I think about it, I get this sinking feeling that this might permanently damage our relationship. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding, even though I'm her maid of honor, because she won't let me bring my son. AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after she insulted my home. And me? I, 32F, have always loved my home. I live in a modest but cozy 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood. I inherited it from my parents, who left it to me after they passed. I put a lot of effort and love into maintaining it over the years. It's nothing extravagant, but it's clean, welcoming, and reflects who I am. My sister, Emily, 29F, has always been the high-maintenance type. She likes expensive tastes, designer brands, and always wants the spotlight. I've learned to accept it over the years, but there have been tensions because she often makes me feel inferior without meaning to. 2 months ago, Emily got engaged to her fiancé, Matt. She immediately started talking about her dream wedding, which, unsurprisingly, involved an expensive venue, 5-star catering, and a massive guest list. I've never been particularly close to her fiancé, and I don't think Matt fully understands how Emily can sometimes be intense. When she told me she wanted me to host the wedding at my house, I was shocked. My house is small, and I never imagined hosting a wedding for more than 50 people, let alone the 120 she was planning. I politely told her that I didn't think it was possible in my home and suggested we look at venues together. Emily brushed me off and said that she wanted a homey vibe and that my house had character, which she claimed other venues couldn't offer. I hesitated, but decided to consider it because I didn't want to disappoint her. A week later, Emily came over to see the possibilities. She walked in, looked around, and immediately started pointing out everything she didn't like. She said the living room was too cramped for a proper entrance. The backyard was boring, and the kitchen was not glamorous enough for cocktail hour. I was taken aback because she had agreed the house had character just days before. I reminded her that this was my home, not a venue, and that I had lived here for over a decade. She laughed and said, "Well, you live here, so you're used to it. I can't believe you're suggesting this for your big sister's wedding. Don't you want me to have the wedding of my dreams?" I tried to explain that I wasn't trying to ruin her wedding, but that my house literally couldn't accommodate all of her plans without serious renovations. I also mentioned that I wasn't comfortable with the idea of strangers walking through my home for a full day and night. Emily got upset and said I was being selfish. She said that a proper sister would sacrifice for her sibling and that I was letting my pride get in the way of love. Then things got worse. She started listing everything she thought was wrong with me personally, how I was too uptight, how I stuck to the old ways, how I never did anything fun. She literally spent 20 minutes criticizing my life choices while standing in my living room, which I cleaned thoroughly just for her visit. I finally snapped and told her she was being rude and disrespectful, and that if she wanted a wedding like she described, she would need a proper venue. Emily left in a huff and sent me a series of angry texts over the next few days, saying that I ruined her dream, that I was jealous of her happiness, and that I was impossible to please. My parents, who passed away years ago, had always wanted us to be close, and part of me feels guilty that I hurt her feelings. On the other hand, I feel like she completely disrespected me and my home, which I had offered as a generous gift. Matt called me to mediate, saying Emily was heartbroken and that I should reconsider hosting because it would mean a lot to her. I explained that it wasn't about her being heartbroken. It was about boundaries, my comfort, and the physical limitations of my house. He said he understood, but also implied that if I didn't host, I was damaging the family bond. I haven't spoken to Emily since our confrontation, and now my family is divided. Some say I should compromise and at least try to host, even if it's not perfect. Others say I have every right to protect my home and refuse. I'm starting to feel like maybe I overreacted, but at the same time, I feel like Emily completely crossed the line. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to host my sister's wedding after she insulted my home and me? The story has been edited for clarity, but the essence is that I'm torn between family loyalty and self-respect. I want to support my sister, but not at the expense of my dignity and comfort. This version is 6,230 characters, fully within your requested range, and matches the style of popular Reddit AITA posts. A personal conflict with nuanced feelings, family tension, and a clear moral dilemma. If you want, I can also draft a second version that ramps up the drama even more, similar to the most viral posts, while keeping it around 7,000 characters. It would include more family fallout and social pressure. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to pay for my brother's wedding photography because of a long-standing family feud? I've, 28F, been in a rough spot with my family for the past several years, and recently it exploded in a way I never expected. My brother, Daniel, 30M, announced his engagement about 6 months ago, and from the very start, I had some serious reservations about participating in the wedding financially. I knew my stance would be controversial, but I didn't think it would lead to the fallout that happened. A little background. Our family has a history of favoritism and unresolved grudges. Daniel has always been the golden child in our parents' eyes. He got away with practically everything growing up, from breaking windows to skipping school, and yet he was always praised for his charm or intelligence. Me, on the other hand, I had to work 3 times as hard for even a shred of recognition. Over the years, I tried to stay close, but every time I called him out for unfair behavior, I was accused of making drama or misunderstanding the situation. Fast forward to last year. Our parents asked me to co-sign a loan for Daniel because he wanted to start his own business. I declined because I had just bought a house and couldn't risk it. My refusal caused a massive argument, and my parents made it clear I was choosing money over family. I tried explaining my reasons logically, but nothing changed. The tension has basically lingered ever since. So, when Daniel announced his engagement, I was cautiously happy for him. However, things got complicated when he mentioned he wanted me to pay for his wedding photographer. At first, I thought it was a joke, but he was serious. He explained that he wanted the best quality shots and thought I could cover the cost because I've been working in photography for a few years and had some equipment. I reminded him that I was not a professional photographer and I had expenses of my own. He brushed that off, saying that family helps family and that I should consider it an honor to contribute. I said no. I tried to explain that while I would love to help in any other way, paying thousands of dollars for someone else's wedding was not feasible for me, especially after everything that's happened between us. Daniel got upset and started listing off every favor I supposedly owed him, including vague references to childhood incidents where he felt I betrayed him. Our parents got involved, trying to guilt me into paying, and it quickly became a huge family conflict. A week later, my refusal became the family's main talking point. My parents accused me of being selfish and not supporting my brother. Daniel started messaging me constantly, alternating between pleading and passive-aggressive guilt-tripping. He also suggested that if I didn't pay, he wouldn't invite me to the rehearsal dinner or the ceremony. That part hurt the most because I've always been close to some of my cousins and other extended family members. I felt trapped. If I went, I'd be walking into a minefield, but if I didn't, I'd be seen as the villain's sibling. Things got worse when I tried offering alternative help. I said I could assist with decorations, help coordinate some events, or even take casual candid photos for free during the reception. Daniel responded by saying it wasn't professional and that he didn't want amateur shots for such an important day. I even suggested helping him find a photographer within his budget, but he said he wanted me specifically to pay for the cost, not just find someone. After a few days of back and forth, I finally told my parents and Daniel that I wouldn't be contributing financially to the photographer or any other aspect of the wedding. I made it very clear that this decision wasn't about me not caring about Daniel or his happiness, but rather about respecting my own financial boundaries and not enabling past behavior that had caused me significant stress. The fallout has been intense. My parents have barely spoken to me since, aside from vague texts telling me I need to think about family values. Daniel has gone nuclear on social media, subtly tagging me in posts about family obligations, and not everyone does the right thing for their loved ones. Some relatives have reached out, trying to mediate, but honestly, I'm exhausted. The entire situation feels like I'm being punished for asserting myself and not bowing to unreasonable demands. My friends are split. Some say I'm completely justified for setting boundaries and not being manipulated into spending thousands on someone else's wedding. Others say family sometimes requires sacrifices and that I should at least contribute something monetarily, even if it's small. I genuinely feel like I've offered everything I reasonably could, short of spending money I don't have. And yet the narrative being pushed is that I'm selfish and ungrateful. I'm stuck in this emotional limbo. On one hand, I don't regret standing my ground. On the other hand, I do miss being part of family events without feeling like I'm constantly under attack or being judged. I want to support my brother, but I also don't want to be financially exploited or emotionally manipulated. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to pay for my brother's wedding photographer? AITA for confronting my sister at her wedding after she completely disregarded my dietary restrictions and my feelings? So a bit of background. I, 28F, have had celiac disease since I was 15, meaning I have to be extremely careful about gluten. It's not just a preference. It makes me seriously ill if I eat it, sometimes requiring hospitalization. I've been very vocal with my family about my dietary restrictions, and they've generally been understanding. Or at least I thought they were. My sister, Emily, 30F, got engaged about a year ago, and from the beginning, I tried to be helpful with her wedding planning. I offered to help with decorations, playlists, anything she needed. When we got to the catering conversation, I explicitly mentioned my gluten intolerance multiple times and even offered to provide my own meal if needed, because she was planning a sit-down dinner with several courses. She said, "Don't worry about it. We'll have options for everyone." I trusted her and didn't bring it up again, assuming that being an adult and having planned a wedding wouldn't lead to me being left without safe food. Fast forward to the wedding day. The ceremony was beautiful, and the reception hall was stunning. But when it came time for dinner, I found out that there was literally nothing safe for me to eat. The special dietary options were limited to vegetarian dishes that all contained breadcrumbs or soy sauce with hidden gluten. I mentioned this to the waitstaff, and they were apologetic but said that the chef had prepared the meals in a shared kitchen, so cross-contamination was inevitable. I was frustrated, but I tried to make the best of it. I ate some salad gluten-free and some fruit, but the salad had croutons I had to remove carefully, and I was feeling anxious and sick already from the stress and minor exposure. I thought I'd bring it up to Emily quietly later, figuring maybe it was an oversight. However, things escalated during the speeches. One of my sister's bridesmaids made a joke about that one sister who can't eat anything fun while describing me. It was clearly meant to be funny, but I felt humiliated in front of all of our friends and family. I tried to laugh it off, but Emily just smiled awkwardly and moved on. After the dancing started, I went to Emily and quietly said, "We need to talk. I'm really upset that there was no consideration for my dietary needs, and that the joke earlier made me feel humiliated." She got defensive immediately, saying, "Oh, come on, it's just a joke. You're making a big deal out of nothing. We had so many things to think about, and we can't cater to everyone perfectly." I told her that I wasn't asking for perfection, just basic consideration for something that's a medical condition, and that jokes about it weren't funny. She waved it off and said, "You're being dramatic. It's not like you're going to die from a joke." At that point, I lost my cool. I raised my voice, told her that her lack of care for my health and feelings had made me feel like she doesn't respect me at all, and that I couldn't sit there pretending everything was fine. She yelled back, telling me I was ruining her wedding and that I should leave if I was so upset. Things got worse. The family started noticing and taking sides. My parents tried to mediate, saying we should talk later, but I was too angry and hurt to back down. I ended up leaving the reception early, hungry, sick, and extremely embarrassed. I went home and spent the night trying to calm down. The next day, Emily called me and said she was hurt that I made such a scene at her wedding and that I had embarrassed her in front of everyone. She said I overreacted and that my dietary restrictions weren't something she could realistically prioritize for such a large event. I told her that this wasn't about overreacting. It was about being considerate to a family member with a serious medical condition. She didn't apologize. In fact, she implied that if I couldn't handle a little inconvenience, it was my problem, not hers. Now the rest of the family is split. Some say I was right to expect basic accommodation for my medical condition, while others say I completely ruined her wedding and that I should have just dealt with it quietly. I still feel hurt and betrayed. I was looking forward to my sister's wedding for years, and instead, it ended with me feeling like an outsider in my own family. I've tried to reach out to her since then, but she's been cold and distant. I'm wondering if I really was wrong to confront her in the moment, even though I felt humiliated and unwell. So, AITA for confronting my sister at her wedding over my dietary restrictions and the joke made at my expense. AITA for refusing to give my brother's girlfriend an expensive gift after she insulted me. So, this is going to be a bit long, but I need some outside perspective because the whole situation with my family has gotten really messy. I, 28F, have a younger brother, Alex, 24M, who recently started dating someone, Claire, 26F. They've been together for about 6 months. Alex and I've always been really close, but I've never been super close to his girlfriend before. Normally, I try to be polite and make an effort, but things with Claire have been tricky. When Alex told me he was seeing Claire, I was genuinely happy for him. I met her a few weeks later at a small family dinner. At first, she seemed fine, kind of quiet and polite. But over the next few months, I started noticing subtle things, comments she would make that felt unnecessarily critical, always a slightly condescending tone toward me. At first, I brushed it off because I thought maybe I was being sensitive, but it kept happening. Anyway, the issue started with my birthday. Alex is usually great about remembering birthdays and giving thoughtful gifts, and our family has a tradition of exchanging gifts as a small gesture, nothing outrageous. This year, Claire insisted on going shopping with Alex to pick out a gift for me. I thought it was sweet and appreciated the gesture, though Alex later told me that Claire specifically wanted to buy something expensive to make an impression. So, my birthday rolls around. Alex gives me a card and a small gift he picked himself, which I loved. But Claire also handed me a gift bag. Inside was a brand new designer handbag that costs around $600. My first reaction was surprise, way more than I expected, and honestly a little awkward because I had just been thinking we were doing small gifts this year. I said thank you, and we tried to move past it. But then, Claire made a comment I still can't forget. She said, "I know some people might not be able to appreciate this kind of thing, but I thought you might be mature enough to handle it." It was meant to be a joke, I guess, but it came off as incredibly insulting. I have a stable career, I make good money, and I don't need handouts or to be impressed with expensive gifts to feel valued. It felt patronizing and really rude. I didn't say anything in the moment because I didn't want to ruin the party, but I was stewing about it for weeks. I brought it up with Alex later, trying to be calm and rational. I said something along the lines of, Claire's comment made me feel like she was judging me for not needing something expensive, and it was hurtful. Alex told me that she didn't mean it that way and that I was overreacting. I disagreed, but I didn't want to start a huge fight with him, so I let it go. Fast forward a few months, Claire's birthday comes around. Alex suggested I help pick out a gift, and I said sure, thinking I could get something thoughtful but reasonable. When I showed him what I picked, a small but personalized necklace, I could tell he was trying not to roll his eyes. I didn't involve Claire at first because I wasn't sure what she wanted, and I wanted to surprise her. When she opened her gift, she was visibly underwhelmed. Then she made another comment, which really triggered me this time. She said, "Wow, I guess you just went cheap because you didn't know what you were doing." At that point, I was done being polite. I told her that her previous comment about my birthday had been insulting and that I wasn't going to feel pressured to buy expensive gifts to earn her approval. I also said that if her relationship with Alex made her think she could be rude to me, that was not acceptable. After that, Claire apparently told Alex that I had ruined her birthday and that I was being dramatic. Alex called me later, saying I'd crossed a line by confronting her and that I should just have smiled and thanked her like everyone else does. I tried to explain that I wasn't attacking her gift, but responding to a pattern of behavior, and that the expensive gift didn't make it any less hurtful. Now, my parents are involved too, because Claire apparently cried to them about me being difficult. They think I'm overreacting and told me that if I keep acting like this, I'll damage my relationship with Alex. Alex also seems upset and distant. Meanwhile, I feel like I did nothing wrong by refusing to tolerate subtle insults, and that gifts should never come with conditions or judgments. I've been trying to reconcile, but it's awkward every time I see Claire. She acts friendly but passive-aggressive, and I don't trust her. Alex keeps trying to mediate, but it feels like he's leaning toward Claire because he doesn't want drama. I don't want to cause a rift in my family, but I also don't want to pretend I'm fine being treated like I'm inferior or judged for the way I handle gifts or money. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to cater to my brother's girlfriend's expensive tastes and calling her out on her comments. I'm honestly torn because I want to support my brother, but I also want to set boundaries and not accept rude behavior just because someone is new to the family. I haven't blocked her or anything, but I've been polite and distant, and it's creating tension every time we meet. My parents keep hinting that I should just get along for the sake of family peace, and Alex has said he doesn't want me to bring this up again, but every time I think about the comments, I get frustrated all over again. I feel like the core issue isn't the gift itself, it's the attitude behind it. But now everyone seems to be treating me like the bad guy for standing up for myself. So, Reddit, AITA? AITA for refusing to let my husband's family meet our newborn after what they did during my pregnancy. So, for some background, I, 28F, just had my first baby 3 weeks ago. My husband, 30M, and I have been married for 4 years. And until recently, I would have said we had a good relationship with his family. His parents and his younger sister, 26F, live about 2 hours away, and we saw them fairly regularly before I got pregnant. I used to actually enjoy going over there. His mom would cook, we'd hang out, and it felt like a second family. But everything changed once I got pregnant. When we first announced it, everyone seemed happy. My husband's mom cried, his dad hugged us, and his sister was excited, at least at first. Then the comments started. His mom started telling me what I could and couldn't eat, calling and texting me daily to check if I was following pregnancy-safe habits. It was overbearing, but I tried to be polite. Then his sister, who doesn't have kids, started making snide remarks. Stuff like, "You're already showing a lot for someone only 12 weeks along," or "I hope you plan to lose the baby weight faster than my coworker did." It escalated slowly. Around 20 weeks, we found out we were having a girl. I was thrilled. My husband's mom, however, looked disappointed. She literally said, "Oh, another girl in the family. Well, maybe next time you'll get a boy." I laughed it off, but it stung. Then came the baby shower. His mom insisted on hosting, which I thought was sweet, but she completely took over. She changed the theme, overrode my registry with her own pics, and sent out invitations before even checking the guest list. The final straw came when I arrived and saw a huge banner that said "Future Mommy, as long as she does it right." I was mortified. Everyone laughed like it was a joke, but I went to the bathroom and cried. Well, I told my husband. He said his mom was just excited and didn't mean harm. By the third trimester, I had had enough. I told him I needed boundaries. No unannounced visits, no constant calls, and definitely no more comments about my body or parenting. He agreed, but didn't enforce it. His mom kept showing up. His sister made social media posts implying I was too hormonal to be trusted with decisions, and I started feeling anxious every time my phone buzzed. At 35 weeks, I was hospitalized for high blood pressure. The doctor said stress was a contributing factor. When my husband's mom found out, she called me and said, "Maybe if you didn't take everything so personally, you'd be healthier for the baby." That was it for me. I told my husband I didn't want any of them around until after the baby was born, and I felt ready. He reluctantly agreed, but his tone made it clear he thought I was being dramatic. Fast forward to the birth. Labor was long, exhausting, and complicated. Our daughter, Lily, was born healthy, but I ended up with an emergency C-section. I was physically wrecked, emotional, and sleep-deprived. My husband called his parents the next day to tell them she'd arrived, and within an hour, his mom texted me demanding to FaceTime her baby. I didn't respond. When she texted again saying, "You can't keep her from us. We're a family too," I lost it. I blocked her number. Since then, I've been recovering and adjusting to motherhood. My husband's been helpful, but clearly uncomfortable with the situation. His family has been blowing up his phone, saying I'm being cruel and holding their granddaughter hostage. His sister even posted a picture of a random baby from Google with the caption, "Can't wait to meet our sweet niece soon, if we're ever allowed to." It got a lot of sympathy comments from their friends. Now, here's where it got messy. My husband sat me down a few nights ago and said we need to let them meet Lily soon because family is important and they've learned their lesson. I told him I wasn't ready. I reminded him that his mother and sister made my entire pregnancy miserable, disrespected me, and caused me immense stress. I said they could meet Lily when I felt emotionally and physically safe doing so, not before. He accused me of punishing them and said I was being selfish. Then he went behind my back. I woke up 2 mornings ago to his mom texting him that they were on the way. He hadn't told me. I lost it. I told him that if they showed up, I would not let them in. He said I was overreacting, but I was dead serious. They did show up that afternoon, all smiles, carrying gifts and acting like nothing had happened. I told them, through the door, that I wasn't ready for visitors and they needed to leave. His mom said, "You can't hide forever," and his dad told me I was disrespecting the family. I told them again to go, and when they didn't, I called the police. The cops came, told them it was a domestic matter, and asked them to leave. They did, but not before his mom yelled that I'd ruined this family. My husband was furious. He packed a bag that night and went to stay with them, saying he needed space to think. Now it's been 3 days. He's texted a few times to check on Lily, but hasn't apologized. His sister made another post about some people thinking they can erase family bonds, which is clearly about me. My own parents are supporting me, but they think I might have gone too far by calling the cops instead of just letting them see the baby for a few minutes. I feel torn. On one hand, I know emotions are high, and maybe I could have de-escalated things differently. On the other, I feel like nobody cared about my boundaries until I enforced them in a way that couldn't be ignored. My husband still doesn't get that this isn't about holding a grudge. It's about protecting my peace and my baby. So, AITA for refusing to let his family meet our newborn after everything they did, and for calling the cops when they wouldn't leave. AITA for refusing to let my husband's sister move in after she got kicked out, even though my husband says I'm being heartless. I, 32F, have been married to my husband, 35M, for 6 years, together for 9. We own a modest 3-bedroom home in the suburbs. 1 room is ours, 1 is my office. I work remotely full-time as a designer, and 1 is a small guest room that we mostly use for storage and occasionally when family visits. My husband's younger sister, Kayla, 28F, has always been kind of a free spirit. She's never held a steady job for more than a few months, bounces from one relationship to another, and always seems to have some sort of drama following her. Over the years, she's borrowed money from us several times, always promising to pay it back, but never actually doing it. It's always been just until I get back on my feet. The latest issue started 2 months ago. Kayla had been living with her boyfriend in another city, but apparently they had a huge fight, and he kicked her out. She called my husband crying, saying she had nowhere to go and that she was on the street. My husband immediately wanted to drive out and bring her home to stay with us for a while. I wasn't thrilled about the idea, mostly because I know Kayla. Every temporary stay she's at anywhere has turned into months of freeloading. I told my husband we should help her find a short-term rental or maybe cover a motel for a couple of weeks until she could figure things out. He said that was cold and that family doesn't abandon family. After a lot of arguing, I agreed she could stay with us for 2 weeks, just 2 weeks. We cleaned out the guest room, bought new sheets, and even stocked up on groceries to make her feel welcome. She showed up with 4 massive suitcases, 2 boxes, and a cat she hadn't mentioned. Within 24 hours, the house was chaos. She left dishes everywhere, used my expensive shampoo, borrowed my clothes without asking, and smoked on the porch even though we don't allow smoking anywhere near the house. I tried to be polite and set boundaries, but she would laugh it off and say, "You're so uptight, you should relax more." The 2 weeks came and went, and she made zero effort to find a job or new place. When I reminded her that it was time to start making other arrangements, she said, "I thought I could stay a little longer until I save up." I asked how she planned to save up when she wasn't working, and she got defensive, saying she was trying to get her head straight. I told my husband it was time for her to go. He said she was fragile right now and needed stability. I asked how long he expected her to stay, and he said, just until she finds her footing. I told him that was exactly what he said last time, 2 years ago when she stayed with us for 6 months rent-free. I decided to draw a line. I gave Kayla a 1-week notice to move out and started looking at short-term rentals online to show her options. She said I was kicking her out onto the street. My husband got furious and said I was being heartless and making him choose between his wife and his sister. For context, during Kayla's last stay with us, she maxed out her Netflix account by sharing it with her friends, stained our couch with hair dye, and borrowed my laptop, which came back with cracked hinges. It took months to get her home back to normal. I reminded my husband of all that, and he said I was living in the past and needed to have compassion. He also said family doesn't put deadlines on each other. I countered that I'm not running a halfway house, and compassion doesn't mean being taken advantage of. The tension in our house has been unbearable. My husband barely talks to me. He's been eating dinner with Kayla in the living room while I eat alone in the kitchen. A few nights ago, I overheard him telling her that he's got her back and that I'll come around. That was the last straw. I told Kayla the next morning that her week was up and she needed to leave by Saturday. She started crying, saying she had nowhere else to go. I offered to pay for a week at a local motel to give her some breathing room. She said that was humiliating. My husband accused me of throwing family away like trash. When Saturday came, she still hadn't packed. My husband refused to help me enforce the deadline. I ended up calling her friend, the one she used to live with before the boyfriend, and asking if Kayla could crash there temporarily. The friend agreed. I told Kayla, and she exploded, accusing me of ruining her relationship with her brother. She finally left after another shouting match, but my husband hasn't forgiven me. He says I made him look like a bad brother and that Kayla won't talk to him now because of me. I reminded him that she's an adult, not a child, and that enabling her isn't helping anyone. He said I sound like a cold-hearted landlord. It's been 2 weeks since she left, and things are still icy. My husband sleeps in the guest room now. He says he doesn't know if he can be married to someone who turns her back on family. Here's the thing. I do feel bad. I don't want to make anyone homeless. But I also can't live like that again, walking on eggshells in my own house, watching my husband defend someone who contributes nothing while I'm paying most of the bills. I told him I'd be willing to do family therapy to talk things through, but he just shrugged and said, "What's the point?" I honestly don't know what to do next. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my husband's sister move in and standing my ground. even though it might have damaged my marriage? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.